I remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong. It wasn't when the for sale sign first appeared in front of our family home. It wasn't even when my sister, Amanda, told me she had taken care of everything. It was when I drove past the house one evening and saw strangers measuring the front porch. That porch had been built by our grandfather. The oak tree beside it still had our childhood initials carved into the bark. That house wasn't just property. It was 32 years of birthdays, arguments, Christmas dinners, and the smell of Mom's cooking drifting through open windows in summer. And Amanda had sold it. At least, that's what she told me. "You live out of state," she said over the phone, her voice clipped and impatient. "You weren't going to move back. The house was just sitting there. It's better this way." Better for who? After Mom passed away, the house legally belonged to both of us. 50-50. That's what the will said. I had read it myself. I had even offered to fly back and figure things out together. But Amanda had insisted she would handle the paperwork. That should have been my first mistake, trusting her. Growing up, Amanda always wanted more. More attention, more money, more control. I was the quiet one, the one who stayed out of arguments. She knew how to push people. Mom used to say, "That girl could sell sand in a desert." Turns out, she could also sell a house that wasn't entirely hers. When she called to tell me the house was sold, it wasn't even a conversation. "It closed this morning," she said. "I'll transfer your half once the funds clear." My stomach dropped. "You already closed? I never signed anything." There was a pause. Too long. "You signed the power of attorney papers last year, remember? When Mom was in the hospital? It gave me authority." I frowned. I did sign something back then. But that was about medical decisions for Mom. Not this. "That wasn't for the house," I said slowly. She laughed, but it sounded forced. "You're overthinking it. I had the lawyer handle everything. Relax." Relax. Our childhood home was gone, and she told me to relax. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Grief makes you tired. It makes you want to avoid conflict. So I told myself she wouldn't betray me like that. She was my sister. 2 weeks passed. No money arrived. Every time I called, she had an excuse. Bank delay. Title company issue. Tax adjustment. Then I received a call from a neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, who had lived next door for 20 years. "They've started renovations," she said gently. "They're ripping out the kitchen." The kitchen. That was the last room Mom stood in before she went to the hospital. I could still see her leaning against the counter, smiling weakly and telling me she'd be fine. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. Something wasn't right. I requested a copy of the sale records from the county office. It took a few days, but when the email came through, I opened it immediately. The buyer's name was unfamiliar. The sale price was listed as $240,000. That number made my chest tighten. The house had been appraised at nearly $400,000 the year before. She sold it for $240,000. Why would she do that? Unless she didn't. I called the real estate agent listed on the document. His name was Mark Ellis. "Yes, the property on Willow Creek Drive," he said when I explained who I was. "Closed 2 weeks ago." "I'm co-owner," I said. "I never signed anything." There was silence on the other end. "That can't be correct," he replied carefully. "Your signature is on the documents." My heart started pounding. "Send me a copy." When the email arrived, I opened the attachment with shaking hands. There it was. My name. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. It looked like mine at a glance. Same looping J, same slanted letters. But I knew my handwriting. This was slightly off. Too careful. Like someone had practiced it. My sister had forged my signature. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. I texted, "We need to talk. Now." No response. The next morning, I drove 6 hours back to my hometown. I didn't tell her I was coming. I wanted to see her face when she realized I wasn't going away quietly. She still lived 10 minutes from the old house, in a newer townhouse she bought 3 years ago. I parked outside and knocked. When she opened the door, her expression flickered from surprise to irritation. "What are you doing here?" "I saw the documents," I said. "You forged my signature." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't be dramatic. Don't lie to me." She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. "Keep your voice down." "So it's true?" She crossed her arms. "You weren't using the house. It was falling apart. I made an executive decision." "You had no right." "I had every right. I took care of Mom for 3 years while you were building your career out of state. That doesn't mean you get to steal from me." Her jaw tightened. "You'll get your money." "When?" She hesitated again. "Soon." That word again. Something clicked in my mind. "You didn't sell it for $240,000, did you?" Her silence was answer enough. "How much?" I demanded. She looked away. "How much, Amanda?" 405, she muttered. My knees almost gave out. "You reported $240,000. It was a private buyer," she snapped. "It's complicated. You pocketed the difference." "You don't understand." "No," I cut her off. "You don't understand. That's fraud. That's tax evasion. That's—" "Lower your voice," she hissed. A curtain in a neighbor's window shifted. "You forged my name," I said quietly. "You lied to the state, and you think this is just a family disagreement?" Her confidence faltered for the first time. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" She didn't answer. I left without saying another word. Back at a cheap motel, I stared at the ceiling and tried to process what my own sister had done. The betrayal felt heavier than the financial loss. If she had just talked to me, we could have figured something out. Instead, she chose deception. The next morning, I went to the county clerk's office in person. I requested full copies of every document filed in the sale. The clerk, a middle-aged man with reading glasses perched on his nose, looked at me curiously as I explained the situation. "If that signature isn't yours," he said carefully, "you may want to consult an attorney." "I will." He handed me the certified copies. That's when I noticed something else. The notary stamp. It was from a notary in another city, 2 hours away from where Amanda lived. Why would she drive that far for a notary? Unless the local ones wouldn't cooperate. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just a rushed decision. It was planned. I contacted a lawyer that afternoon. After reviewing the documents, she looked up at me with a serious expression. "If this is a forged signature," she said, "this is criminal." "I don't want to destroy my sister," I admitted. She folded her hands. "She may have already done that herself." I went back to the motel feeling numb. I didn't want this to turn into police reports and courtrooms. I just wanted fairness. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Is this Jonathan Miller?" "Yes." "This is Special Agent Carter." My heart skipped. "From where?" "The Federal Bureau of Investigation." For a moment, I thought it was a prank. I'm sorry," I said. "We need to speak with you regarding the property located on Willow Creek Drive." The room felt smaller suddenly. "What about it?" "Can you confirm whether you authorized the recent sale of that property?" My mouth went dry. "No," I said slowly. "I did not." There was a pause on the line. "Thank you," Agent Carter replied. "We'll need to schedule a formal interview." "Wait," I said quickly. "What is this about?" Another brief silence. "We believe the transaction may be connected to a broader investigation." Broader investigation. My mind raced. Connected how? "I can't discuss details over the phone, but your sister's name has come up in relation to several financial irregularities." Several. This wasn't just about our house. "When can you come in?" he asked. I swallowed. "Tomorrow." After the call ended, I sat on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the wall. Amanda hadn't just forged my signature. She hadn't just underreported the sale. She was involved in something bigger, much bigger. And now the FBI was involved. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something shift inside me. Not grief, not anger, but clarity. Whatever she had done, it was about to unravel. And this time, she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the house, The porch, the oak tree, the kitchen, and Amanda standing in front of it with that same cold expression she wore when I confronted her. But now the FBI was involved. That changed everything. The next morning, I drove to the federal building downtown. It was plain and gray, almost boring looking. If you didn't know what happened inside, you'd walk right past it. Inside, I gave my name at the front desk and was escorted upstairs. Special Agent Carter was younger than I expected. Early 40s, calm voice, steady eyes. The kind of person who didn't raise his voice because he didn't need to. He shook my hand. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Miller. Call me Jonathan." He nodded and gestured for me to sit. There was another agent in the room, a woman named Ruiz. She opened a folder that looked far too thick to be about just one house. Agent Carter folded his hands. "We're investigating a series of fraudulent real estate transactions in this county and 2 neighboring counties." My chest tightened. "And my sister?" "Her name appears in several financial transfers connected to those transactions." I felt like the air had been pulled from my lungs. "How many properties?" Ruiz glanced at the folder. "At least 4 so far." 4. "Our family home is one of them?" I asked. Carter nodded. "Yes." He slid a document across the table. It showed a pattern: properties sold below market value, underreported on official records, then quickly resold or transferred through shell buyers. "And the missing money?" I asked quietly. "Redirected through a network of accounts," Ruiz said. "Some domestic, some overseas." Overseas. This wasn't Amanda being greedy and reckless. This was organized. "I don't understand," I said. "She's not some criminal mastermind. She worked at a local bank for years. She volunteers at charity events. People often have 2 versions of themselves," Carter said gently. "One the world sees, one they don't." I stared at the papers in front of me. "What do you need from me?" "We need to confirm that you did not authorize the sale," Ruiz said. "And we need a handwriting sample." I nodded immediately. "Of course." As I signed a statement declaring I never approved the transaction, a strange mix of emotions flooded through me. Anger, betrayal, fear, but also something else. Relief. For weeks I had been questioning myself, wondering if I misunderstood the paperwork, if maybe I signed something without realizing it. Now I knew. I had been right. Amanda had forged my name. When the interview ended, Agent Carter walked me to the elevator. "Jonathan," he said quietly, "I know this is difficult, but if she's involved the way we believe, this won't stay contained for long." "What does that mean?" "It means you should prepare yourself." "For what?" He held my gaze. "For this to get public." My stomach dropped. News, headlines, court. Our family name dragged through it all. I drove straight to Amanda's townhouse. I didn't plan to. My hands just turned the steering wheel automatically. Her car was in the driveway. I knocked harder this time. She opened the door, clearly annoyed. But when she saw my face, something shifted. "What happened?" she asked. "They called me," I said. Her eyes flickered. "Who?" "The FBI." The color drained from her face. For the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in her expression. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said too quickly. "Don't do that," I snapped. "Don't lie again. They know about the house. They know about the other properties." Her jaw tightened. "You went to them?" "They came to me." She stepped back, pacing now. "This wasn't supposed to." "Wasn't supposed to what?" I demanded. She stopped pacing and looked at me. "You don't understand how much debt I was in." "Debt? You live in a nice townhouse. You drive a new SUV." "Exactly," she shot back. "You think that just happens? After Mom got sick, I maxed everything out. Medical bills, repairs, loans. I thought I could manage it." "So you started selling houses illegally?" "It wasn't supposed to be illegal," she yelled. I stared at her. "You forged my signature." She ran her hands through her hair. "I was approached." "By who?" She hesitated. "A group of investors," she finally said. "They specialize in distressed properties." Our home wasn't distressed. They said we could list it lower on paper to reduce taxes. The buyer would pay the rest separately. Everyone wins. "Except me," I said flatly. Her eyes hardened. You would have gotten your half. When? After you paid off your secret debts? She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. How many houses, Amanda? She swallowed. Just a few. That's not what the FBI thinks. Her face went pale again. They're investigating you, I said. Not just for our house, for multiple transactions. She shook her head. They can't prove anything. They already have bank records. That hit her. She sank onto the couch. They said it was safe, she whispered. They said they had connections. Who? I don't know their real names. My stomach twisted again. You don't know who you're involved with? I didn't ask questions. That scared me more than anything else. You forged legal documents for people you barely know? I asked. She looked up at me, tears forming in her eyes now. I was drowning. And you dragged me with you. Silence filled the room. I wanted to yell, to tell her she destroyed everything. But part of me still saw my older sister, the one who used to walk me to school, who once punched a kid for teasing me. How did we get here? There was a knock at the door. We both froze. Another knock. Firm, authoritative. Amanda's breathing quickened. Did you? I didn't call them. The knock came again. Federal agents, a voice said from outside. Open the door. Amanda's hands started shaking. This can't be happening, she whispered. It is, I said quietly. She stood up slowly and walked toward the door. Each step felt like it echoed through the room. When she opened it, Agent Carter and Agent Ruiz were standing there. Miss Miller, Carter said calmly, we need to speak with you. Amanda tried to compose herself. About what? You know about what? They stepped inside. I moved to the side, feeling like an outsider in my own family disaster. Do you have a warrant? She asked, trying to regain control. Ruiz handed her a document. We're conducting a search related to an ongoing financial fraud investigation. Amanda's shoulders sagged. Agents began moving through the house, methodical and quiet. One opened her laptop on the dining table. Another photographed documents near the desk. I caught her eye. There was anger there now. You did this, she whispered. No, I said. You did. Agent Carter approached us. Jonathan, you're free to go, he said. We may contact you again, I nodded. As I walked toward the door, I heard Amanda's voice crack behind me. I was going to fix it, she said. I just needed more time. I paused but didn't turn around. Time was the one thing she had run out of. Outside, the late afternoon sun felt strangely normal. Birds were chirping. A neighbor was mowing their lawn. Life going on like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A news alert. Local bank employee under federal investigation for real estate fraud. Her name was in the headline. I leaned against my car, staring at the screen. It wasn't just a family betrayal anymore. It was a federal case. And deep down I had a feeling this was only the beginning. The news spread faster than I expected. By the next morning, Amanda's face was everywhere online. Local news stations replayed the same footage of federal agents walking in and out of her townhouse. Comment sections filled with strangers calling her greedy, selfish, criminal. They didn't know her. But they also weren't wrong. I stayed in town longer than I planned. The FBI asked me to come back one more time to clarify details about the forged documents. The handwriting analysis had already confirmed it wasn't mine. The notary stamp was fake too. The name belonged to a real notary, but the license number had been altered. Amanda hadn't just lied, she had built layers of lies. A week later, she was formally charged with wire fraud, tax fraud, and conspiracy. The investors she mentioned, 2 of them were already under investigation in another state. They had been targeting homeowners with financial pressure, convincing them to manipulate sale documents in exchange for quick cash. Amanda wasn't the mastermind, but she wasn't innocent either. I visited her once at the county detention center. I don't know why I went, maybe for closure, maybe because she was still my sister. She looked smaller somehow. The confidence she always carried like armor was gone. They're offering a deal, she said quietly after we sat down. What kind of deal? If I cooperate, if I give them everything. Are you going to? She stared at her hands. I don't want to go to prison for 10 years. 10 years. The number felt heavy between us. You should tell the truth, I said. She let out a bitter laugh. You always were the honest one. And you always thought you could outsmart consequences. She looked up at me then, and for the first time since this started, I saw regret. Not fear of being caught, but actual regret. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, but you did. Silence settled between us. They told me it was common, she continued. Undervalue the property, split the difference, move money through consulting fees. Everyone does it, they said. Banks cut corners all the time. Corporations do worse. So that made it okay? No, she admitted. It just made it easier to justify. I leaned back in the chair. You know what hurts the most? I said. Not the money, not even the house. She swallowed. It's that you didn't trust me enough to tell me you were drowning. Her eyes filled with tears. I was ashamed, she whispered. You left. You built something stable. I stayed. I was supposed to be the responsible one, the strong one. I couldn't admit I messed up. So you doubled down instead. She nodded. The guard announced that visiting time was almost over. Jonathan, she said quickly, what's going to happen to the house? I hesitated. Because that was the one piece of news she didn't know yet. The sale has been frozen, I told her, because of the fraud investigation. The title transfer is under review. Her eyes widened. What does that mean? It means the buyers can't legally claim it until the case is resolved, and since the sale involved forged documents and false reporting, it's likely to be voided. The house wasn't gone. Not yet. She closed her eyes as if trying to process that. I never wanted to lose it, she said softly. I just wanted to survive. But you risked everything, I replied. The guard called time. As I stood up, she looked at me one last time. Do you hate me? The question hung in the air. I thought about the porch, the oak tree, the forged signature, the FBI call. I don't hate you, I said honestly, but I don't know how to trust you again. That hurt her more than if I had said yes. I walked out without looking back. Months passed. Amanda cooperated fully with investigators. She gave them names, emails, account details, everything. In exchange, the prosecution recommended a reduced sentence. She was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison instead of 10. It still felt unreal hearing it spoken in court. 3 years. The judge emphasized that while she had not created the scheme, she knowingly participated in it and benefited from it. The court also ordered restitution. The hidden funds had to be repaid. As for the house, the sale was officially voided due to fraud. The fraudulent tax filings triggered additional penalties for the network she had been involved with. Several other properties were tied up in similar legal reversals. When I walked back into our family home for the first time after everything, it felt different. The kitchen cabinets had been partially removed during the short renovation attempt. Dust covered the floors. The air smelled stale, but it was still ours. I stood in the living room where Mom used to sit every evening. Sunlight filtered through the same windows. The oak tree outside swayed gently. For a long time, I just stood there. I had a choice to make. Sell it properly and split what remained after legal costs, or keep it. Not because it was valuable, but because it meant something. In the end, I decided to restore it. Not to freeze time. Not to pretend nothing happened. But to rebuild something that had almost been destroyed by greed and fear. I hired local contractors. I repaired the kitchen. I refinished the porch. I left the oak tree exactly as it was. Initials carved into the bark. Imperfect but real. Sometimes neighbors would stop by and say, "We're glad the house stayed in the family." They didn't know the full story. Most people didn't. Amanda writes to me once a month. The letters are different from the person she used to be. Less defensive, more reflective. Prison stripped away the image she tried so hard to maintain. In one letter, she wrote, "I thought success meant never letting anyone see you struggle. I didn't realize it meant facing your mistakes." I keep the letters in a drawer. I don't know what our relationship will look like when she gets out. Maybe we'll rebuild it slowly. Maybe it will never be the same. But here's what I learned. Greed doesn't always start with evil intentions. Sometimes it starts with panic, with pride, with the desperate need to look like you're in control. One bad decision becomes 2. 2 become 10. And before you realize it, you're answering the door to federal agents. The day the FBI called, I thought my life was falling apart. In a strange way, it was the moment things started becoming honest again. The house still stands, The porch still creaks in the evening. And every time I look at that oak tree, I'm reminded that strong roots matter, but only if you protect them. Some betrayals break families forever. Ours didn't, but it came close.